Families are having a very good time at Michigan's U-Pick operations. MDARD is picking up where they left off on the state's produce farm inspections, and Michigan Ag Commodities' Chris Betts has your market update. I'm Janelle Brose, and this is Farm News 5.
Farm News 5 is brought to you by Ford.
It's peak U-Pick season for strawberry growers, and one operation in southeast Michigan is having its best year yet.
Our family gets together because some of my family lives in Michigan, so we all come together and just pick strawberries together, and it's fun. We're all just picking and showing each other weird strawberries we find and stuff. I kind of like to make smoothies sometimes. My dad will make strawberry shortcake and stuff.
William Whitaker co-owns Whitaker's Berry Farm with his wife Marilyn, and they operate a 19-acre strawberry U-Pick farm in Ida, Michigan. And even with the larger-than-expected crowds, Whitaker's has been able to follow guidelines outlined by the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development for U-Pick operations.
We've had to do some adapting. Some of the stuff we were doing, we were already doing. We've kept people separated in the fields to give them room to pick, the families, and so that hasn't really changed for us. We'll put a flag in, have them start on a row, and when they get so far up, then we'll have the next person, that row next to them, go ahead and start. So everybody's got pretty fair distance away from each other than the ones that come in together. So that didn't change for us. We've had to add a little bit more signs on the farm to make people aware of it. We've had some water by our porta cans. We put some water stations in there for people washing and doing things like that. And with so many people, we've had to add another exit to the farm to be able to control the outgoing crowd. The customers seem like they're just enjoying it. I think that's part of it. A lot of people are just ready to get out of the houses and do something fun and get a good product from it.
Daphne Bazinski of Temperance, Michigan visits the farm every year with her extended family to pick berries.
It's something we do together as a family, and it's kind of a nice bonding time. With the way they have things set up here and the way they've done it over the years, you're automatically socially distancing, and we were since the beginning of them doing this because they're very strategic, the way they put people in the fields. They take you to an assigned area and they say you can have this row and this row between this flag and this flag. So we were socially distancing before we even knew it was a thing.
While things are going well now, Whitaker says there was one word to describe the potential impacts COVID-19 could have had on the 2020 season.
Yeah, it's scary because the one thing like that could lead to maybe we were looking at if we weren't able to be open, that 16 years of all our hard work to build up could be done right now. Because if we don't have an income, we still have all our expenses, everything that we would do normally, we still got to do, and we couldn't afford to do that without an income. So it basically would have shut the farm up. We'd have been having to sell. So that's how dangerously and how much stress that was on us.
For the Yo girls, the only thing they're stressing about is who is the best strawberry picker in the family.
Probably my dad or my mom.
Emmy!
Yeah.
If you want a car from a company that's been building them for 115 years, get a Ford. If you want a car with driver assist technology, get a Ford. You're gonna want a Ford.
It's been a topsy-turvy year for specialty crop growers here in Michigan. In the spring, growers facing an uncertain market had to decide if they should bother planting. And if they do, can they get adequate labor to harvest the crop? It's a make-or-break question for an industry that relies heavily on seasonal, migrant, and H-2A laborers to help harvest throughout the summer and fall.
As far as our labor supply right now, we have domestics that came in. We also have H-2A workers. The first batch of them came in April, middle of April. We had 60 more arrive this past weekend, and we'll have 60 more arrive, 56 or something like that, arrive next weekend, and those are all H-2A workers. And the last of them will arrive about the 20th of July, and that's when things are really rocking and rolling as far as harvesting and packing and stuff. So we need our full labor force about that time. But when we get all done, we'll have about 220 to 225 people on staff. 160 or 70 of those will be H-2A workers. The rest will be domestic. Some of our local seasonal workers, and then some of our full-time people will make up that number.
And then there's the COVID-19 pandemic, which has impacted farms and packaging facilities across the state.
We're lucky enough to have a large enough labor camp where we have a couple of the housing units set aside for anybody who comes up sick, where we can quarantine them there. We've already had some of the COVID-19 here. Some people test positive and we've quarantined them. They were all asymptomatic but one.
The latest wrinkle for growers comes in the form of an executive order that required them to modify on-farm housing to encourage social distancing and further prevent the spread of the coronavirus.
It's very hard for growers to keep up with all the COVID stuff, and especially you have smaller growers that are trying to keep up with all this. You've got to have a COVID plan, a preparedness plan for how you're going to deal with people when they get sick and stuff. MDARD came out with some rules a week and a half ago on a Thursday, and on Tuesday our camp inspection, and they came out to check our COVID preparedness plan. We had 4 or 5 days to get it ready. And some of that kind of stuff, it's a little hard to take as a grower. And you know, we want to keep our people safe because we want to be able to stay in production. I want to keep myself safe and my family safe too.
The Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development will begin inspections on produce farms grossing over $250,000 in annual food sales. These inspections are different from voluntary third-party audits and are mandatory. The inspection process begins with a phone call from MDARD, and this gives operators time to discuss their operation with the department and determine whether or not they are exempt from the Food Safety Modernization Act Produce Safety Rule.
There's a lot of little nuances about whether or not someone's in or someone's out in terms of inspections. So some of the calls that have been made up to now have been to try and figure out who's in and who's out. I know growers are concerned when MDARD calls, and I get that. If the government were calling me, I'd be a little bit skeptical and concerned. If you are a grower who isn't needing to be inspected, the more information you give around that, the better it is for you in the sense that they'll leave you alone. MDARD estimates that only about 1,300 farms in Michigan qualify or are what they call covered under the rule, which basically means those are folks that will either need an inspection or need to supply some data or some records showing that they don't need an inspection. Really to let folks sort of have the inspector introduce themselves to the grower and start to build sort of a relationship, ongoing relationship. The initial findings, probably the grower will have a year or so to put them in place. There may be situations where a problem might be a little bit more serious from a food safety perspective. In those cases, there may be some talk about how to fix it and some requirement for that grower to fix it a little more quickly.
There are a number of ways to prepare for an on-farm inspection. One way is to complete an on-farm readiness review through Michigan State University Extension.
The OFRRs are scheduled through MSU, but we're working with a broad swath of individuals to carry them out. So yes, I would recommend you do it before. If you cannot do it before, I would do it after. That will link you into a set of resources. The produce safety technicians are scattered throughout the state. These are specially trained individuals specific to produce safety that can come out on a regular basis and work with you. I realize harvest is the worst time in the world to come visit a farmer, and I get that time is particularly important. We also know that when we do the on-farm readiness reviews in the heat of harvest, that's when we start to see when things happen. I've been through pack houses before harvest, and you look at it, it looks great. In the middle of harvest, when there's humidity, you get to see where condensation's happening. You get to see where the farm workers maybe aren't doing where the pinch points are, and those are really where we find the problems. Is when we see folks during harvest. We promise to make that time as valuable to you as is humanly possible through an on-farm readiness review.
Findings of on-farm readiness reviews are kept confidential, and all information and notes collected are given to the participating growers. Reviews can be scheduled by emailing ofrr@msu.edu.
What happens when a road accident results in a hazardous waste spill? Contact attorney Dirk Beckwith at 248-539-9918 to learn the next steps.
Reports have been trickling in over the last few days of armyworm damage to fields in Michigan. Michigan State University field crops entomologist Chris DeFonso says infested fields aren't incredibly common, but have been found in many counties throughout the state. Producers are advised to check corn, oat, rye, sorghum, Sudan, wheat fields, and grass pastures for potential feeding damage. DeFonso says insecticide choices on wheat have narrowed, and the PHIs of the remaining products are long. And now with the latest on markets. From Michigan Ag Commodities, here's Chris Betts.
Thanks, Janelle. New crop corn broke lower Thursday as U.S. harvest draws near, and growing conditions remain very good. Extended forecasts call for more of the same. The return of ethanol demand has injected some support into the market, but the COVID threat is still very much a reality, as future travel restrictions are possible should case counts spike back higher. Outside markets have been lower on such fears and bled into commodities. Export demand for corn has been weak, and rumors of significant Chinese buying have yet to be confirmed. Funds are maintaining a huge net short position in corn as they price in all these bearish factors, which could make for a quick rally should a bullish story develop, but sub-$3 futures remains very much a possibility. For more market information, go to michag.com. With Michigan Agricultural Commodities, I'm Chris Betts.
For more news and video, visit MichiganFarmNews.com or the Michigan Farm Bureau channel on YouTube. With Farm News 5, I'm Janelle Brose. Have a great week of farming.